All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, like I said, on behalf of the Department of Housing and Community Development and the CDFI, the Virginia CDFI Coalition, welcome. My name is Chris Kane. I'm the Microfinance Program Manager here at DHCD. And DHCD is a statewide agency that our mission is to be able to help create safe and affordable neighborhoods all throughout the Commonwealth. And my particular division is called Microfinance, where we focus on a small scale capital. So through grants and other financial vehicles, we help fund municipalities, communities, and community development financial institutions on helping our communities prosperous and grow. And we do that by helping removing some long-standing barriers for people to get access to capital, including making sure that our businesses that are less than 2 years old get the kind of funding that they need. Couple of housekeeping things. First and foremost, everybody that has registered for this webinar today, you guys are going to get a copy of it via email. So all of our organizations and the folks that are presenting today, there's going to be hot links in that in the presentation, so you don't have to jot down all the email addresses and all of that stuff. So hopefully you can listen to our stories and have some really robust conversations as we go along. But I do want to let you know, make sure that you're muted and turn off your camera if you'd like to. And like I said, as we're going along, you can certainly throw in questions for your presenters. I know that I'm going to be throwing in some information for you as they speak. So keep an eye on the chat as we go along. And also, I want to say not only welcome, but thank you to our speakers. Today, you're going to be hearing from Donna Gambrell from Appalachian Community Capital. She's going to go first, and then Johnholtzclaw is going to go second from Rochdale Capital. And then you're going to hear from Caroline Nowry from Virginia Community Capital, and then Michael Riley from Foodshed Capital. So that's the order of presenting today. And speakers all drive. So you just let me know whenever you need you're ready for me to advance the slides. Okay? All right, and I already told you a little bit about DHCD, but I also want to tell you a little bit about the Virginia CDFI Coalition. Right now, there's about 22 members of CDFIs all throughout the Commonwealth, and we seek to offer a collective voice to address issues concerning unmet financial needs of Virginia communities by advocating for greater awareness of CDFI activities, operations, and by supporting the goals of our member organization through peer support and education, like this webinar today. And this webinar is being recorded, and it will be living on our website. You'll be getting a link to that too, so you can share far and wide. But the CDFI, the Virginia CDFI Coalition, we're all about advocacy and education, industry best practices and partnerships, and storytelling and marketing education. And one of the newest initiatives where the CDFI Coalition and DHCD came together and joined forces was by creating the Virginia Small Business Resiliency Fund. Something really magical happened last year, and our General Assembly allocated $10 million and $9.7 million through 12 emerging and existing CDFIs throughout the Commonwealth. That's going out all over the state to help small businesses navigate a post-COVID economy. So with the coalition and DHCD and all of the amazing work that we're doing throughout the Commonwealth, we do that because we are CDFIs. So Donna, would you like to tell us how you answer that question?
Great.
And like I said, just let me know when you need me to advance the slide.
Thank you, Christina, and good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be here, and a thrill to be with my colleagues who are just doing some amazing work in the CDFIs that they are managing and working in. So, Donna Gambrell, I'm President and CEO of Appalachian Community Capital. We're a unique structure in that we are an intermediary CDFI, but I think you'll find that for the entire industry, all CDFIs have the same mission, and that is to support underserved communities, to support those communities that have been economically challenged, and to make sure that there are resources, affordable resources, both in capital and in the types of services that are provided to ensure that these communities grow and thrive. We are still a fairly new and fairly small CDFI. We were created in 2013. We began lending in 2015. And the way that an intermediary works is that I raise capital for my members. We started with 12 members. We are now totaling 30 members that are located throughout the Appalachian region. They in turn use the proceeds that they receive from Appalachian Community Capital to make small business loans in one or several of the 423 counties that comprise the Appalachian region. These are the counties that are designated by the Appalachian Regional Commission as being part of the region. And as you can see on the map, it includes all of West Virginia and portions of 12 other states, starting in New York and going all the way down to Mississippi. Next slide, Christina, please. So Appalachian Community Capital offers two types of loans primarily. We make loans again to our CDFI members. We also participate in loans with them, and that allows the CDFI members to actually do larger loans and do other types of loans besides just the direct small business lending. And those loans for us to our members range anywhere from $100,000 to $3 million. We are, again, to date, we have used or dispersed about $20 million to our members. Those members have made about 100 loans to small and micro businesses. 45% of that financing went to minority and women-owned firms. And the funds are being used for working capital, for inventory, for equipment, building renovations, business vehicles, and other expenditures that are needed to help businesses grow. Our members report that they have created or helped create or retain about 2,000 jobs, with 40% of those benefiting low-income persons. So we continue to look for ways in which we can make impact. And on the screen, you see two examples of the loans that we make to people. You know, and I think the joy of working for CDFI is that it's about the data, but it's also about the stories as well. And you can see, again, time and time again, CDFIs are making great differences. So I did not have fancy slides like my colleagues do. I could only figure out how to put the pictures on the slide. So the first example is Tim Tam Logistics. Tim Haas has been driving trucks for various companies for the past 40 years. He's been hauling everything from scrap metal to large metal beams across the country. His wife Tammy works with him as an administrative officer within the company. I say she is the power behind the throne, and they do some tremendous work. So you all know that during this pandemic, and even before the pandemic, there were supply chain issues, and including in the Appalachian region. And so with fewer truck drivers on the road each day, Tim and Tammy really play an important part in the supply chain that affects local, national, and global economies. With our financing, we provided a loan to People Incorporated in Abington, Virginia. They in turn use that funding to help Tim and Tammy buy two new trucks that they are using now that have helped really to grow their company as well, because what they've been able to do is to employ additional drivers who are also part of the business, and also allowing those, enabling those employees to actually start their own trucking businesses as well. So they really believe in paying it forward and making sure that their employees are just as an important part of the business that they maintain. Below that is Horizon Adult Healthcare Center in Kentucky. Kelly Upchurch was a businessman, and he really saw a need in rural Kentucky, specifically for families with challenges addressing elder care. And I know like many of you do, probably what it means to take care of an elderly parent or another relative. A lot of times when you're in that situation, people have to leave their job market to provide care for their relatives or their friends. They have to rely on a home health service that sometimes, can't afford a lot of hours because they may not have the money to spend for that home health care service. They may have to send their family member to a nursing home or spend a fortune hiring somebody full time. And what Kelly Upchurch did is that he wanted to actually have the first adult daycare center in rural Kentucky. And so he went to Kentucky Highlands Investment Corporation, which is an ACC member, asked for a loan. Kentucky Highlands came to Appalachian Community Capital, and together we provided a loan to upgrade the facility that Kelly Upchurch had purchased, to provide the Horizon Adult Health Care Facility to serve the rural Eastern Kentucky community. So this center alone just added about 45 jobs to the area and serves about 150 community members. But through that, that model was so successful that they've now had a multiplier effect, and other healthcare centers and adult healthcare centers were actually also financed and built in some of the same locations in Eastern Kentucky. On the other side of the screen, you'll see that we are also involved in an initiative called Opportunity Appalachia. This is a group of CDFIs, ACC, as well as CDFIs in 5 states now: Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. We understood that there was a lack of CDC capacity in the region. There were some great redevelopment projects that were being built in communities, but folks often didn't have the pre-development support that was needed. So they might have been lacking access to an architectural design firm, or they were preparing prospectuses and really needed help with that because they weren't sure whether an investor's would be attracted to what they had already prepared. They needed somebody to really help them put that package together in a way that was going to resonate with the investor. Or they were looking for additional capital, and so they needed help with the capital stack. So Opportunity Appalachia is a TA matchmaking initiative where ACC and our partners have come together to provide the kind of TA services at the pre-development stages of a redevelopment project. And so far we have been very successful with our pilot program that we launched in 2021. We've now expanded again to additional states, and with those first projects to date, we have 5 projects that have identified financing sources and either closed on their financing or are anticipated to close on $42 million this year. We just had the Tigard Hotel in Elkins, West Virginia go to their closing, as well as a community and cultural center in Grafton, Virginia, that also closed last week, that is housing both for-profit and nonprofit businesses. And what we are finding just in those 5 projects alone is that they're creating about 170 jobs in coal-impacted counties. And an additional 4 projects are likely to be financed later in 2023 at about $140 million, resulting in the creation of over 1,000 additional quality jobs. So the cumulative impact of the first round of Opportunity Appalachia is projected at 9 projects, receiving about $182 million in financing, creating over 1,100 jobs just from that one portfolio. And again, we are now excited that we're moving into phase 2 of Opportunity Appalachia and looking at 40 projects. And so as we continue to be successful, we'll continue to replicate the model and hopefully expand to the entire region. So that's Appalachian Community Capital. I could talk all day. I don't have the time. I want to make sure that my colleagues also have a time to promote the work, the great work that they're doing in the region. So thank you, Christina.
Thank you so much, John. And we'll have some time at the end of the presentation today. John, you ready? You're up next.
I'm up.
All
First
right.
of all, Thank you for the invitation. Anytime my grad school classmate asks me to do anything, I'm always going to come through. And then I know now that my career has come full circle when I get the chance to follow the Donna Gambrells of the world. So she'll get me for that later. That said, I'm John Holtzclaw, President and CEO of Rochdale Capital. We are the youngin of this webinar. We are a brand new startup community development loan fund based in Arlington, Virginia. Let me give you a little bit of the backstory. Prior to Rochdale, I was the executive vice president of strategic initiatives at the National Cooperative Bank. And for those of you who don't know the National Cooperative Bank, it's congressionally chartered in 1978 and privatized in 81. But it has this uncommon mandate that they must make best efforts that 35% of their disbursements be in under-resourced communities. And so that mission has really become a large part of the DNA of the bank. But over the last several years, it's really become harder and harder for me to get my deals done in a regulated environment. And so our former CEO said, after hearing me whine about it, he says, why don't we just create our own thing? And I said, deal. And looked at various models, CDCs, looked at nonprofit loan funds and some other things. And so in my frustration, I said, let's just create a CDFI. And that's exactly what we did. We will hopefully apply for certification in September or October of this year, but we are not yet a certified CDFI. We are a startup community loan fund, but our premise is going to be all around the promotion of community ownership and cooperative principles. And for those of you who don't know the cooperative principles, there's 7 of those, which is really, and I tell people, the Rochdale Society of founded the 7 principles, but that's not really why I picked the name. I picked the name because for 2 years, Frederick Douglass, the famous abolitionist, left the U.S. as a enslaved individual, but went to Rochdale and spent some time with them for 2 years, gave over 300 speeches, and they gave him half the money that he needed to buy his freedom. And so when he came back home, he was a free man. And that really is a testament to just, again, the fortitude of them as founders of the cooperative principles, as well as helping Frederick Douglass become a free man. And so we'll have a national footprint. Our whole piece is around ownership, be it home ownership, small business, cooperative ownership, and then community ownership. We really want to define what that is. And, we are, like most CDFIs, and like Donna had said, our financial intermediary who will be providing those financial services as well as developmental services to under-resourced communities. Next slide, Chris. And so let me say in full disclosure, this is not a deal that Rochdale has done. My prospective chief lending officer just signed the offer letter yesterday, so I finally got some staff now. But this was the last a deal that I brought into the bank, and it gives you a great example. This is going to be called Detroit Food Commons, and it was a $20 million total deal. The bank only had about 12% of it, but this is a shining example of what Rochdale's trying to do. It's in the north end of Detroit. It is a black-led, black majority member co-op. In the north end, it's centered around the first transit-oriented development in the history of Detroit. And so these are the kind of transactions that we want to do. There's a great organization there that's been working on food security for some time in Detroit. They took one of the older public parks that nobody was using and turned it into a community garden. And so the bulk of that food was used to help folks from a food security standpoint, and will also be soon sold at the Detroit Food Co-op. There also will be rooms for community use for meetings. There'll be culinary classes and all this kind of stuff. And so it's really going to be a hub of the community. And these are the kind of transactions that we'd like to do from a Rochdale Capital standpoint, because again, promoting the expansion of community ownership and the principles, then also too working to advance equity and diversity and inclusion as a part of what we do. I mean, we all know that Black and brown entrepreneurs in many ways are not always given the opportunity to gain financing. And so we really want to lead with that type of attitude around the advancement of EDI. But then we also, let's not be naive. We're also going to do what we can to work with our founding and strategic partner, NCB, to maybe do some participations for them or manage some loans for them as well. So like I tell people, running a startup is like every day is new. And so I've really been humbled by the entire process, but you all will hear more about Rochdale Capital in the weeks and months ahead. And I'm sure there are many on this Google Meet that I will be calling in regards to some advice and insight from folks who've done this far longer than I have. So thanks for the opportunity, Chris, for me to introduce Rochdale Capital to the Commonwealth and to the world on this Google Meet.
Thank you so much. And I just also wanted to let you know too, that John is the chair emeritus of the National CDFI Coalition. So he helped steer that for a couple of years. And lastly, before I hand it over to Caroline, I threw in a link. So if you guys want to learn more about the 7 cooperative principles that John had talked about, there's a link in the chat as well. All right, Caroline, you ready to go?
I am ready. And thank you, Christine. It's great to be able to talk to everybody here today, but really hard to follow John and Donna. So bear with me while I go through this. As Christina talked about the statewide CDFI coalition, it was really exciting, all of the work that was done over this past year. And we were happy to be a recipient of $1.5 million from that from that fund. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second and the purpose and use of that. But so VCC, Virginia Community Capital, is a statewide CDFI. We were established in 2006, so we're 16 years old, and I've been here for 12 years. And before that, I worked with Christina at the Women's Business Center in Richmond. So it's exciting, like John said, to kind of circle back and see all of your fellow colleagues. So it was established with $15 million from a group of bipartisan legislators, where they really wanted to establish a community development bank. So our structure is really unique in the fact that we have a loan fund, as John has as well, but we also have a for-profit bank that's also a benefit corporation, and they're both CDFIs, so they're both regulated from the CDFI fund. So we're able to combine funds. We're able to raise, I talk about this from the investor relations standpoint, we're able to leverage different types of capital. So we're able to leverage deposits from the bank, as well as loans in our loan fund from financial institutions, from our philanthropic partners, and from institutional investors. So it's really exciting how we're able to blend that capital and go to market. And our clients don't know that, that we are going from 2 sources. They look at us, we go to market as VCC, and that's how we'll always go to market. But it's really great because it does enable us to reach a broader audience. We're not a retail bank, so we don't do consumer lending. We don't originate loans for cars or houses. We do all regular lending to organizations, community development organizations, small businesses, and nonprofits in our area. So our focus areas are really affordable housing. It's probably about 60% of our portfolio. It's really where we got started. It's where we cut our teeth, so to say, when we were established in 2006. We focus on small businesses related to job creation, especially in low to moderate income areas. Clean energy, really solar. We focus on that type of lending. Food access, so healthy food financing, as well as access to healthcare. And so you'll see that in some of in the impact numbers here. So we talk about our total projects financed, and this is as of December 2021. So our total impact is $1.92 billion, but that is leveraging the loan originations of $809 million to over 1,400 loans. So it's not just our lending capital that we talk about the total project capital. We're proud to be a member of Appalachian Community Capital as well. So we partner with Donna quite a bit. But you can see some of our impact here on the slide is, jobs created and retained is a huge focus of ours. And so since 2011, it's over 1,300. I'm 13,000, sorry. Affordable housing units financed across the state is over 11,000. Advisory service hours. Donna talked about the technical assistance that her organization is also offering and partnering with other CDFIs, but we also offer technical assistance through our loan fund. And so many of our lenders not only provide loan originations for our borrowers, but they also work with our borrowers to get them ready, to get them able to access capital if they need it. We also have individual TA providers that we have on staff that just go out and provide technical assistance to small business and affordable housing lenders to help them understand their capital stacks or some of their needs, even marketing, telework, as we saw, digital access, as we saw, that's so important in the past couple of years. So technical assistance it's really one of the key elements of how we get our capital out into the market. And that's where we look to a lot of our funders to support that. We've also had 30 loans for food access, 26 healthcare loans, and then our clean energy, we break down into the megawatts of energy produced, and that's over 18,000. So these are, great impact numbers we have. We're going deeper with our impact stories and really trying to talk about outcomes versus outputs. We're doing a lot of that work this year, so you'll see more of that as you see communications from our marketing department. Next slide, please, Christina. So this is an exciting project that we did last year. The McShin Foundation is a 17-year-old nonprofit organization serving alcohol and substance abuse recovery in Richmond. It was really founded in a church basement, but now it has over 15,000 square feet of resident space across the region. It has 100 beds. And it's interesting, it's one of 16 accredited recovery community organizations in the US, which is, it's very hard to do. Services include safe, halfway, and transitional recovery housing, linkage to detox services, connections, and rehabilitation and treatment. We're very proud of this partnership. We look at our nonprofit partners as we look at our small businesses. They need loans as well to expand and continue to provide services. So this was a real estate acquisition that we funded this example. It's really exciting too. This, over the past year, we launched in 2021, we launched the Economic Equity Fund, which is part of our grant fund from the Small Business Resiliency Fund. And that's really to support businesses that we thought that were, disproportionately affected by the downturn of our economy and the impacts of COVID, and they're still in recovery. So we're raising a $10 million fund to support minority and small women-owned businesses across the state, with pairing with TA, with low-cost capital, as well as credit enhancements. So we have a cash-funded loan loss reserve. We have interest rate buy-downs for these borrowers. And again, we have technical assistance that we'll provide to these borrowers too. So I think we've funded over $3.7 million so far in our Economic Equity Fund, and we are just continuing to grow and add additional resources as we move forward. That's all I have for today.
Carolyn, thank you so much for sharing that. Michael, are you ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Excellent.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everybody else who preceded me. It's great to be in this company. John, I want to give a particular thanks to you because of the newness of your organization. I think this is the first time that I've done a presentation where I'm not the new guy. So thank you. I'm feeling like an old timer now. I am, again, Michael Riley, co-founder and executive director of Foodshed Capital. We provide patient, flexible, low-cost loans and technical assistance to small farms and food businesses. So we're very niche-oriented in the food space. We are, as I alluded to, quite new. We were technically founded in May 2018, but that's a little bit misrepresentative because we were just a very, very tiny loan fund, just doing some work around the Charlottesville and Richmond area for the first couple of years. And then we got certified as a CDFI in May 2020, and that's when things began to accelerate for us. We are based in Richmond. Our team of 7 now, I think, is kind of scattered a bit throughout. I work mostly out of my home in Charlottesville. We have some folks, we have somebody working down in Floyd as well. So we're kind of, again, sort of spread around the state a little bit. Our focus is primarily Virginia. That's where we tend to do most of our work still. That's our CDFI target market, but we are expanding quite a bit around the region, just responding to needs that are out there. There are not a lot of organizations, or I should say not enough organizations, doing the work that we do to support farms, smaller farms at the food system at the producer level, which is really the essence of what we do. So we've done quite a bit of work in Pennsylvania and Maryland. In North Carolina, we actually are expanding a bit up into New York. And I'm also very excited to report that as of, I believe this week, we are closing on our first loan in West Virginia, thank you to funding from Donna's organization, Appalachian Community Capital. So that's a great partnership. We became members of ACC last year, and we're looking forward to that partnership for many years to come. In total, we've done 70 loans. Most of those at the beginning were very small, like mini micro loans, I guess you call them, $10,000 and under, but they've grown in size since then, more along the lines of about an average of about 25,000 now. Our largest loan is 125,000. And most of these are for things like equipment and infrastructure and working capital that small scale farms need to grow and develop their businesses. We also do quite a bit of bridge lending because there are a lot of food grant programs through USDA and at the state level that do require upfront, that are reimbursement grants. And so a good example of that is a bridge loan we did in collaboration with the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund, which is run through BDAX and is administered by VCC. So a great partnership there. That was a project in Richmond. We do prioritize women and BIPOC farmers in our work. So actually about well over 86% of our loans are to farms and businesses that are operated at least in part by women and BIPOC farmers. We categorize them that way because farms are kind of unique in the sense that they may be an LLC or a sole proprietorship owned by one individual, but often it is women who are involved in the actual operation of the farm, even if their name is not necessarily on the LCC certificate. TA, of course, is essential to the work we do, as it is with all CDFIs, and particularly for farmers who often don't think of themselves as businesses. So most, if not all, of our loans do require a lot of work up front just to help them with their bookkeeping and really helping them construct a business plan and that sort of thing. So even though some farms have been around for 5-10 years, we almost have to treat them all like startup businesses to just get them to think like a business. Okay, next slide. I want to be really mindful of time because I know we want to allow time for questions. So this slide is about how we help, and you'll see some words on here that are a little different than what you typically see when discussing the work that CDFIs do. I mean, access to capital is critical. The reason why we exist is because small farms cannot get financing from traditional capital sources, and so we're providing that solution. And job creation is very important to the work. Economic development, those are key metrics that we do like to track. But we focus on some of these unique terms that are very particular and unique to the niche work that we do. Why we do what we do is sort of rooted in this belief that our current food system is unhealthy, environmentally destructive, and inherently inequitable. And when combined with financing practices, it has been extractive and in fact discriminatory. So we know that the largest civil rights class action lawsuit in U.S. history actually was against the USDA for its lending practices to Black farmers in the 1980s and 90s. So our work is really centered on what we can do to help redress some of these issues. So soil fertility, biodiversity, clean air, and water, those are concepts that we believe are fundamental to food production, and all the producers that we work with really center those practices in the work that they do. Notice on here there's nothing about healthy food, and that's because healthy food usually comes along with farming in a way that is focused on soil fertility, biodiversity, clean air, and water. So it's pretty much just a foregone conclusion that healthy food will be the result of that. And many farmers think of the work they do in that way. Land access is absolutely critical to the work we do. You can't farm without land. We haven't been doing too much with land access yet, but we hope to be. And that's sort of in combination with reparations too. We are very tuned into the fact that that there's been huge land loss for Black and brown farmers throughout the generations. In fact, I saw a study yesterday that the current present day value of Black land loss in the 20th century is $326 billion, which is pretty amazing. And the last three things all really sort of go together: food access, cooperation, and development of regional food systems, which I won't get into too much, but just wanted to point out two loans that we have done here recently, both with the help of funds from VS-BRF, which we are very grateful for and really appreciate all the work that Chris did to put that fund together for us. Cattle Run Farm on the right there is in Greene County. It's run by Ralph and Sarah Morton. We gave them a $50,000 loan to help them build a farm stand on their farm to increase their sales. They raise a variety of livestock on their farm, but what's really, I think, valuable about the work they do is just the greater impact they have on the regional food system. They're board members of the Minority and Veteran Farmers of the Piedmont, which is a nonprofit providing training and mentorship to farms throughout the Piedmont region, and that includes programs for kids as well. We actually gave them a grant last fall to help them develop some mobile markets for some of their members. MVFP is also a partner in the George Washington Carver Food Enterprise Center, which is in development in Rapidan. And involves Virginia Cooperative Extension as a partner as well. So just we really look for projects where food producers are making a bigger impact beyond just their own little farming operation. And another good example of that is on the lower left, Jones's Gardens, which is in Stanton. This is a recent loan we made. They are a nonprofit trying to provide affordable access to healthy food through community gardens and parks, our garden parks, I guess as they call them. They're a new organization founded by Naomi Jones, who is shown there, I think planting onions. We gave the organization a $10,000 loan for some working capital to help them get their organization going. And I believe they've applied for a VFAID grant as well, so we hope to potentially support them if they do wind up getting that grant with some bridge funding. So with that, I will leave it there, and hopefully that will provide enough time for some questions and dialogue. And once again, thank you, Chris, and thanks to all the co-presenters. It's great to be a part of this.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming together with your experience and expertise and your stories. And I want to say one thing that I've heard with every single person who spoke this morning: collaboration with other entities and organizations and with each other really seems key to the success of our CDFIs. And it's called Community Development Financial Institution for a reason, right? And a community piece is super important for the success of not only our organizations, but the communities in which we serve. So the first question came in. I'm going to go ahead and read Thaddeus's question first. And then if anyone else would like to throw in a question or just we're a small enough group, I think, that you can just unmute yourself and ask your question. So Thaddeus, thank you for your question. I'll go ahead and read it. To all presenters, but specifically Caroline, how do you best incentivize and collaborate with banks in leveraging funds for lending? Also, how much of your funds are combined and/or funds other than grants and public funding? He's trying to form his case for the future. Thank you, Thaddeus.
That is a great question. On the loan fund side, many financial institutions partner with CDFIs because it gives them CRA credit, Community Reinvestment Act credit. So it's a great partnership and it benefits both of us, but they also do it for that type of investment. So we have quite a few financial institutions who invest with us. I try to negotiate it down to keep our costs of funds as low as possible. And we're also able to do that with philanthropic organizations who invest program-related investments with us. So if you look at our philanthropic organizations who are looking at it as an impact investment vehicle, most recently, and this will come out this week, but it's okay to say now because it closed on Friday, but the Community Foundations invested $2 million with us for 5 years. And they are receiving a modest return, and they're looking at it as their first impact investment. They've never done that before. And then we work with organizations who've been doing impact investing for years, like Jesse Ball DuPont. You look at them and their impact investing in CDFIs to support housing. It's a way for not only banks, but financial institutions. They're underwriting the organization, so they're not underwriting the loans that are there. They're taking less of a risk by underwriting an established CDFI. And we combine all of those funds. So for affordable housing, we received a Capital Magnet Fund award from the Department of Treasury. We'll combine low-cost funding with our additional funds to blend down some interest rates, especially for nonprofit affordable housing developers. So we leverage it all. And it's fun. It's kind of exciting because we are able to do that with our unique structure. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good.
Does Caroline want to
I was
weigh
just
in
gonna say
on
what Caroline
Thaddeus'
said.
question? Oh, sorry, John.
I was going to say ditto for Caroline. That's basically what our approach will be as well. Again, reaching out to community development folks at Wells and U.S. Bank, CDC, and whatnot. But I will say that, like Chris said, that the collaboration piece is huge in this field. And again, if I've learned nothing the last 2 years as the CDFI Coalition Chair, is that you gotta collaborate to be successful in this business. And Michael, we want to see more of the dog. I don't know what happened to the dog. He came off the couch, and so just wanted to.
Yeah, I shoot him away.
I have a quick question. This is Jessica at DHCD that works with Chris. And this can go to Caroline or any of the other people who spoke today. But could you tell us a little bit more about what a B Corp bank is?
Sure. So we're a benefit corporation, which means we're certified by B Labs and a third-party evaluator so that we're doing good for our community. So they evaluate everything from our marketing to our HR to our programs and products and services. We were one of the first benefit corporations as a financial institution, but now there are many more, and you can look it up. And it's exciting to be part of that community. It's unique in a way, but it's also it fits along with CDFIs. It fits along with how CDFIs are operate. So our bank is the certified B Corp as well as benefit corporation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. And I went ahead and threw in a link to B Corps. And the assessment to become a B Corp, it can be a very useful tool to just kind of see how well your organization or your business balances people, planet, and profit. And to do that in a way where you can be a profitable entity as well. Thaddeus has another question. Also, what are your largest challenges And what do you and do you experience specific different needs in the rural versus urban communities? Great question.
That is a great question, and I'm happy to volunteer with my response. I find, and I think a lot of CDFIs find as well, that they face some of the same challenges that their customers face. There's a lack of resources. There's a lack of access to affordable capital. The relationships that are crucial are something that need to be built over time. They don't happen overnight. And so until just recently, I think, and I've been doing this for a long time, but until just recently, there were still a lot of people who didn't know what a CDFI was. We were not well known. We were a well kept secret. And so I think with the certainly with the economic downturn, with COVID, with the racial turmoil that was happening in this country, what you saw were CDFIs that really stepped up to the plate, became much more visible. Clearly, we're having impact, but there's still a lot that we have to do. And the challenge is making sure that folks know what we are doing, and the work we're doing is having sustainable impact and really helping to transform communities, that it's very organic. It starts from the community that really identifies what those priorities are, and that's when a CDFI steps in. But getting that word out is probably, I think, for me anyway, still the greatest challenge.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to answer Thaddeus's question? We've got a couple more in the chat, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to talk about those issues. All right, Julie. Julie's a question to all speakers. How do you personally keep up with the patient catalytic capital innovation for very, very early stage entrepreneurs beyond this conversation?
Christina, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
It's also in the chat too. So a question to all speakers. How do you personally keep up with the patient/catalytic capital innovation for very early age entrepreneurs beyond this conversation?
And I can help clarify the question if that would help. We're spending a lot of time in Indiana thinking about being creative with capital, flexible capital, patient capital, catalytic capital. And I'm interested in paying attention to where these conversations are happening. And it doesn't matter to me where it's happening. It could be around revenue-based financing or revenue-based repayments. It could be any combination of things you guys have already listed. But I'm wondering, just from each of you, who is thinking about super early capital, flexible capital, catalytic capital, patient capital, and where are they having these conversations?
I'll jump in. Hopefully I can answer that, Julie, because that's pretty much the work that we do. It's the first thing I mentioned at the outset of the presentation was our commitment to patient flexible capital, which is really pretty much, if you're not going to take that approach with small scale food production, you're not going to really get anywhere. So most of the work that we do day in and day out really tries to assess how we can truly walk the talk and be patient and provide catalytic capital for these small farms in a way that is non-extractive. So we talk a lot about non-extractive capital. The system for farmers, particularly Black farmers, has been very extractive. So we launched a program last year to really amplify the work around lending to Black farmers, and all of our loans to Black farmers are at 0% and they're unsecured. And we're doing that on a fairly small scale, and we're trying to scale that in collaboration with philanthropy around the country. We're talking to potential partners about this because we feel that it is really, if we're going to look at truly taking a reparative approach, that this is something that we need to be committed to. Flexibility and patience are, again, it's like sort of baked into what we do, because farms constantly, as most small businesses do, encounter a lot of road bumps along the way, but farms probably over-index in that department because of weather and pests and other things that they have to deal with, that are just so many unforeseen curveballs that come at them on a continual basis. So, we do tracking 30, 60, 90-day delinquencies, but oftentimes those kind of get shoved off to the side when we really want to be partners with a farm. We realize that patience and flexibility is key. We constantly are modifying loans and making adjustments so that we can work with farms. Our goal is to keep them in business, and however long that takes, that's what we're willing to do. Hope that answers it. Maybe somebody else has something to add.
Thank you so much, Julie. And the next question is coming from David. Hi, David. His question is, what are some of the best practices you've seen from local and regional economic developers and their engagement with CDFIs? Is it a matter of networking and making connections, or are there other strategies?
So one of the things I've seen that has worked, and it's actually a page that's taken out of the New Markets Tax Credit playbook as well, is that you have developers. I know in Opportunity Appalachia, in our first phase, we had a community benefits agreement with local developers that basically said the projects, in fact, would be ones that would benefit the community overall, and these are the ways in which that benefit would occur. There would be engagement with, collaboration with the community, that the community would take the lead in really identifying what those priorities are. I think once you have something like that in writing, where there is this agreement between the community and the developer, then there's accountability as well. And so we want to make sure that those whatever those provisions are, that they're in place, that they're honored. And I think that can be a very good best practice if it's carried out from day one until the very end of the project.
Donna, would you mind telling me again what that was? New Markets Tax Incentive?
Sure. There's a program within the CDFI fund called the New Markets Tax Credit. It was created specifically as a public-private partnership initiative back in the early 2000s, and is still around because people are actually doing some extraordinary work, particularly in economically distressed communities where the public and private sectors are coming together to work on real estate projects, operating businesses, et cetera, et cetera.
Thaddeus, I threw in a link into the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Ramona. Hi, Ramona. Michael, Ramona has a question for you. Michael, do you do any work with or fund farmers who are participants in the Virginia State University Small Farm Outreach Program?
Yes, Ramona, we've done, I believe, a few loans with some farms that have worked through that program. We're very familiar with it. Michael Carter Jr. Is on our board of directors, so he's sort of our connection into the work that they do. So yeah, we really love the work they do and are always looking to support them in any way we can.
Okay, great, thank you.
And I'm on mute. I still do that about once or twice a week, I think. But if that is all the questions, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us today, specifically Donna, John, Caroline, and Michael. And thank you for the robust questions that you guys answered too. Don't forget that I'm not only going to send you this presentation, but there's going to be hot links all throughout the presentation, so you can feel free to reach out to any of the presenters today with any other kind of questions. Thank you, Michael, for throwing in your information already. And I also want to give a shout out to the microfinance team at DHCD. You guys have all met me, but I also want to say hello, Jessica Hartness. Jessica runs our Community Business Launch Initiative. And Sabrina Blackett is also the coordinator for our Virginia Individual Development Account program too. And so if you want to learn more about those other initiatives or what DHCD is doing, please don't hesitate to contact myself or Jessica or Sabrina to learn a little bit more how we can help your communities. All right, so with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.